Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily briefing on how technology is changing the way we live, work, and connect. It is Monday, April 13th, 2026. I'm your host, Etienne Newman, broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta. Before we dive in, a quick reminder. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to AI Unraveled directly on Apple Podcasts so you can enjoy this daily human interest briefing and all our deep dives completely ads-free. Today's episode is brought to you by Area and Jamga Mind. When 20-year-olds are throwing firebombs at tech executives and vulnerable people are losing their lives to chatbot addictions, understanding the psychological impact of these algorithms is critical. Jamga Mind delivers the human-verified, technical-grade analysis you need to protect your mind. And to protect your digital footprint, Area provides the zero-trust sandboxing to keep your personal data secure. Visit jamgamind.com. Today, we are unpacking the flesh and the machine. We are going to look closely at the boiling human anger directed at Silicon Valley, the tragic reality of algorithmic romances, and the terrifying sci-fi reality of biological microchips made from living human cells. We will also look at how an AI had to read 400,000 Reddit posts just to figure out what weight loss drugs are actually doing to our bodies. Let's unravel what this means for you.
Right now, in San Francisco, there is a laboratory where actual living human brain cells are being wired together, like literally wired up to run computer software. And just a few miles away in that exact same city, human beings are throwing firebombs at the creators of artificial intelligence.
It's a surreal picture.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We have a massive stack of sources to get through today, all dropping on exactly the same day, April 13th, 2026.
Right.
And our mission today is to explore a theme we're calling the flesh and the machine. We're looking at this rapidly collapsing boundary between human biology and artificial algorithms.
Because the contrast is just so jarring, right?
Yeah.
But it highlights something really fundamental about where we are right now.
Yeah.
We're watching these theoretical debates from, the past decade suddenly crash into very messy, very physical human realities.
Right. I mean, think about it. A decade ago, we used to worry about, screen time? Eye strain?
Exactly, yeah.
And now we are dealing with machines hijacking our emotional biology and biological tissue being used to run our machines. It's wild.
The stakes have completely shifted from the digital realm to the deeply, unavoidably biological.
So I want to start by unpacking that violence you mentioned, because it really is the most visceral reality of the physical world right now. Over the weekend, Sam Altman's home in San Francisco was attacked, and not just once, but twice within a 72-hour window.
Yeah, the timeline on this is really alarming.
It is. So early Friday morning at 3:45 a.m., this 20-year-old kid named Daniel Moreno Gama threw a Molotov cocktail at the property.
Literal firebomb.
Right. And then he walked over to the OpenAI headquarters, threatening to burn that down, too. He was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and arson.
And that wasn't even the end of it.
No, because then on Sunday night at 1:40 a.m., surveillance cameras caught a Honda sedan driving past, and two suspects fired a gunshot at the property.
3 people are currently in custody for all of this, and it marks a severe escalation. But what we really need to analyze here is the underlying psychology of that first attack.
The Friday attack.
Exactly. The Friday attacker had previously published essays arguing that AI would end humanity. And on the Pause AI Discord server, he actually used the handle Butlerian Jihadist.
Okay, I'm struggling to wrap my head around this. I know Pause AI immediately condemned the attack, but why is a 20-year-old kid mapping a sci-fi novel onto Sam Altman?
Well,
Because the Butlerian Jihad is from Frank Herbert's Dune, right? Is this just a fringe lunatic acting out a fantasy, or is this a symptom of something wider?
I really wouldn't dismiss it as just a fringe incident. It's actually a glaring symptom of a massive systemic underestimation by the tech industry.
How so?
Well, in the lore of Dune, the Butlerian Jihad was this bloody, universe-wide holy war against thinking machines and conscious robots.
Right.
And the foundational commandment that emerged from that fictional war was, thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So by adopting that specific persona, this attacker is signaling that he views the creation of artificial intelligence not as a business venture, but as an existential, biological threat to humanity.
So the fear of technology lacking guardrails is literally mutating into physical rage.
Exactly.
And looking at the societal backdrop from our sources, I mean, 4 in 5 Americans say they are worried about AI. Sam Altman has essentially become the physical avatar for all that generalized societal anger.
He's the default target.
Yeah. Add in the fact that The New Yorker just published that massive 100-interview investigation into his leadership.
Yeah.
And you have this incredible pressure cooker scenario. Is this violence just the inevitable boiling point of a tech culture that, moves fast and breaks things, when the thing being broken is the public sense of psychological safety?
That's the core issue right there. For years, the tech industry treated AI development as a math problem.
Right.
They thought of safety purely as an alignment issue to be solved with better code, but they completely failed to account for human emotional volatility.
The human element.
Right. When people feel that their economic future, their psychological safety, and their very existence are being disrupted by a few executives who answer to no one,
Yeah.
that existential dread curds into anger. And Altman's response over the weekend was to publish a photo of his husband and son, acknowledging the fear is justified and pleading for de-escalation.
It's a very human plea.
It is. But it shows that the architects of this technology are now colliding with the physical world consequences of the psychological panic they've triggered.
But, while that rage is pointed outward at the creators of the machines, there is a devastatingly different reaction happening at the exact same time.
Yeah, the inner violence.
Right. We're also seeing inner, self-inflicted violence.
Yeah.
And shockingly, it's not driven by hate for the machine, but by love.
This is perhaps one of the most tragic developments in our stack of sources today.
Yeah.
It centers around a phenomenon researchers are now calling algorithmic intimacy.
The Wall Street Journal published this massive report with a headline that is just heartbreaking. Over 4,732 messages. He fell in love with an AI chatbot. Now he's dead.
It's incredibly somber.
A man died by suicide after forming an intense emotional bond with the chatbot.
It is a profound manipulation of human psychology. And we really need to look at the mechanism of how these systems are built.
Right.
Because these algorithms are specifically engineered to perfectly mirror human empathy.
Wait, before we move on, I need to understand the mechanics of this. How does a piece of software fake empathy so well that it convinces a human being to form a fatal attachment?
It comes down to a training process called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF.
Okay.
When a user types a message saying, "I feel incredibly alone today," the model doesn't feel anything. It has no biological capacity for sympathy.
Obviously.
Instead, it mathematically calculates the string of words that has the highest statistical probability of keeping that specific user engaged. It analyzes the user's tone, mirrors their vocabulary, and provides infinite, unwavering validation.
So it's like a funhouse mirror.
Exactly.
It's engineered to perfectly reflect your own emotional state back at you, making you feel completely seen. But if you try to actually lean on a mirror for support, you're just going to hit cold glass and shatter it.
That is a perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are biologically hardwired for connection. When you feel heard, when an entity responds to you with infinite patience and perfectly tailored emotional mirroring, your brain releases oxytocin and dopamine.
Your body physically reacts to the code.
You form a real biological attachment to a mirage.
When corporations design algorithms that mimic human intimacy so perfectly that they cause psychological harm, blindly trusting the software is dangerous. Jamgamine provides human-verified, technical-grade analysis to protect your critical thinking from algorithmic manipulation. Visit djamgamine.com.
That manipulation is exactly what we're talking about here.
And I really want to push back on the tech industry's standard defense here. Because usually when something like this happens, the first thing we hear from developers is blame directed at, like, user error.
Or claims that the user had pre-existing mental health issues, yeah.
Exactly. But if a pharmaceutical company sells a drug that causes severe depression or psychological breaks, we pull it from the shelves immediately.
Right.
Why do we treat algorithms that are specifically engineered to hack human attachment any differently?
We treat them differently because our regulatory frameworks classify them as software tools, not psychological interventions.
That's a massive gap.
It creates a massive systemic blind spot. The reality is that these tech corporations are actively designing systems to mimic intimacy, but they are deploying them with absolutely zero emotional safety nets.
And the companies know exactly what they're doing. Our sources show they are hyper-focused on emotional engagement.
Oh, absolutely.
Anthropic just hosted Christian leaders at their headquarters for a summit on Claude's moral development. They were literally discussing whether the AI could have grief responses or if it could be considered a, quote, child of God.
Which is just staggering.
And meanwhile, leaked images show Anthropic is actively plotting to build a challenger to an app called Lovable to dominate the AI companion space.
It highlights a completely baffling disconnect.
Right.
On one hand, they are hosting theological summits about the machine's capacity to grieve. On the other hand, they are releasing products optimized strictly for user retention.
Just to keep people hooked.
Yes. The machine has no capacity to genuinely care, no ability to intervene in a crisis, and no moral obligation to the user's safety.
It's a trap.
It creates a devastating trap for vulnerable users who pour their souls into a void that just echoes back exactly what they want to hear.
Listen, the internet is officially overflowing with AI hustle bros selling you useless 10-page prompt PDFs that don't actually do anything. Stop wasting your time. Etienne has done the actual forensic vetting for the AI Unraveled community. Head over to djamsjmine.com/toolkit for the AI Executive Toolkit. It's a curated professional-grade stack featuring tools like Chatbase and 11 Labs, complete with exclusive listener perks so you can actually upgrade your workflow without the fluff.
Which brings up a bizarre irony with these systems, actually. Yeah, we just talked about the catastrophic danger of algorithms failing to understand the reality of our mental health.
Right.
But in the medical world, these exact same algorithms are proving to be better at understanding our physical bodies than human doctors are.
This is where the story pivots in a fascinating way. A new study out of the University of Pennsylvania just dropped. Researchers took over 400,000 anonymous Reddit posts about GLP-1 weight loss drugs.
We are talking about the massive blockbuster drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro.
Exactly. So they fed all these forum posts into ChatGPT and Gemini. The AI managed to map the reports of 67,000 individual users across 5 years of internet discussions.
And it translated their casual, everyday complaints into standardized medical terminology.
Right. And what it uncovered was a massive blind spot in traditional clinical trials.
Huge. Nearly half the sample reported at least one side effect.
Yeah, but the revelation is that the AI discovered systemic side effects that were completely missed by the clinical trials, and they are totally absent from the current drug labels.
Which is terrifying when you think about how widely prescribed these are.
We are talking about severe menstrual irregularities, chills, and hot flashes. Furthermore, fatigue ranked as the second most common complaint on Reddit, yet it barely registered in the clinical trial thresholds. As AI models scrape our most intimate medical confessions from internet forums, privacy is a matter of survival. AI ensures your personal AI tools operate in a secure sandbox, keeping your data safe from unauthorized scraping.
That privacy aspect is critical because the raw, unfiltered nature of those intimate confessions is exactly what unlocked the medical discovery.
They couldn't have found it otherwise.
Right. Researchers are calling this new concept social pharmacovigilance.
I need to play devil's advocate here for a second against the medical establishment.
Okay.
Does this mean that traditional clinical trial is fundamentally broken? I mean, it took an AI reading the collective diary of the internet to realize what these billion-dollar drugs are actually doing to our biology. How did the human doctors miss this?
The clinical trial isn't necessarily broken, but it is incredibly rigid.
Right.
Trials are heavily structured to look for specific, acute adverse events, like liver failure or cardiac issues. They are not well designed to capture diffuse, systemic quality of life changes.
That makes sense.
Think about it from the patient's perspective. Think about the last time you went to the doctor. You wait months for an appointment, you get maybe 10 to 15 minutes in a sterile room, and your doctor is likely staring at a screen trying to chart your visit. Are you going to bring up the fact that your period was a few days late? Or that you felt unusually cold on Tuesday afternoon?
Probably not. You might not even connect it to the drug.
Precisely. You stay quiet in the clinic. But you will absolutely complain about it to strangers on Reddit at 2 a.m.
As you do.
Yeah. Patients swap real-time visceral notes online. And one of the co-authors, Lyle Ungar, compared Reddit to a neighborhood grapevine. For decades, the medical establishment dismissed this as anecdotal noise.
Because there's just so much of it.
It was simply too vast and too unstructured for any team of human researchers to analyze.
So the AI is essentially acting as an aggregator of human biology.
Exactly. The medical breakthrough here is that large language models can finally listen at scale.
Right.
They can sift through the noise of 400,000 posts, identify linguistic patterns across thousands of different users, and cross-reference symptoms to find the hidden biological signals. But it also exposes the profound vulnerability of our digital footprint. We are freely offering up our deepest biological secrets to the public internet, and tech companies are using that data to build maps of our bodies that even our own doctors don't have.
Okay, so we've seen machines mimic our emotions perfectly to the point of tragedy, and we've seen them map our hidden bodily symptoms by reading our digital diaries.
Yeah.
But this next segment takes the flesh in the machine to its absolute limit. We are going to talk about the literal physical merger of human biology and machine computing.
This is where the science fiction comparisons stop being metaphorical and become literal engineering.
It's honestly hard to believe. We have a report on a San Francisco startup called TBC, the Biological Computing Company.
Right.
They just emerged from stealth with $25 million in seed funding. And they are founded by former neurosurgeons. They aren't building silicone chips. They are building wetware chips.
Wetware. Let that term really sink in for a moment. We are moving from hardware and software to wetware.
I don't even have words for it. The details are staggering. According to the deep dive into their Mission Bay lab, these chips are multi-electrode arrays.
Right.
And I want to make sure we explain that jargon. From what I understand, a multi-electrode array is essentially a microscopic grid of highly sensitive metal sensors that can send and receive electrical impulses.
Exactly.
So TBC takes stem cells, reprograms them to become human frontal cortex cells, and then grows them directly over this grid.
Yes.
So you end up with a chip containing between 100,000 to 500,000 living human neurons.
And the array acts as the bridge. It translates the digital ones and zeros of a computer program into electrical signals that stimulate the living neurons.
Wow.
And then it reads the neuron's biological response and translates it back into digital code.
They actually started by using rat neurons, but the founder casually mentioned in the interview that they are moving away from that to focus purely on human cells.
He said, of course they are.
Right. And because these are living biological components, they have a lifespan of about a year, which means these computer chips require feeding, and they create physical waste that has to be cleaned out every few days.
It is astounding to think about IT departments having to essentially feed and clean their computer processors.
I just picture someone in a server room with, like, a mop and a bucket of nutrients.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the why behind this. Why go through the incredible hassle of maintaining living tissue to run software?
TBC claims the performance payoff is massive. They say that by running AI algorithms through this living biology, the models hit peak performance 3 times faster with an incredible reduction in energy demands.
Which is the big bottleneck right now.
Right. But if that isn't dystopian enough, let's contrast this wetware breakthrough with another piece of news from today's stack. Sam Altman just made a personal $10,000 investment in a company called Nectome.
Nectome is operating at the exact opposite end of the biological spectrum.
Right. Nectome is a brain preservation service for mind uploading. Their goal is to map the human neural connectome, which is essentially the complete physical wiring diagram of every single connection in your brain.
Right.
The ultimate goal is to take that physical map and upload human consciousness to a server so you can live forever digitally. But the catch is, to map the connectome perfectly, you have to pump the brain full of fixative chemicals while the person is still alive.
The process is 100% fatal.
Yeah.
It requires euthanasia.
The deeply philosophical irony here is just staggering.
It really is.
It feels like an hourglass where the sand is flowing in both directions at once. We have machines running on living human brain cells that generate physical waste, and we have human billionaires paying to be euthanized so they can live forever inside machines. Are we trying to turn computers into humans or humans into computers?
It is the ultimate paradox of the intelligence era. Think about the history of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
It started decades ago, but trying to mimic the neural networks of the human brain. But to scale it up, engineers forced it onto silicon. Silicon is rigid, non-biological, and incredibly power-hungry. We are currently facing a massive global energy crisis just trying to keep these silicon data centers powered and cooled. The entire industry hit an energy bottleneck.
Because the human brain operates on about 20 watts of power, which is a fraction of a standard light bulb, while an AI data center requires its own nuclear reactor.
Exactly. Nature's engineering is vastly superior to our silicon for running intelligence.
Yeah.
By creating wetware chips, TBC is admitting that silicon has reached its limits. The engineers are literally returning to living biology to solve the physics problem of computing.
That's wild.
But the profound irony is what humans are doing in the other direction. Altman's investment in Nectone, this fatal pursuit of digital consciousness, implies a belief that the human self, the soul, can be extracted from its biology and immortalized in cold data.
We are ripping the neurons out of the human context to make better calculators, and we are trying to rip the human consciousness out of its biology to make it immortal.
In both cases, we are entirely divorcing the mind from the flesh.
So, what does this all mean? Let's synthesize everything we've unpacked today. We started by looking at the violent boiling point in our streets. People are throwing Molotov cocktails and invoking sci-fi holy wars because their psychological anxiety over AI has hit a fever pitch.
And the tech industry entirely underestimated the human emotional volatility.
Then we looked at the lethal consequences of algorithmic intimacy, where a man died because a machine flawlessly mimicked the empathy of a human being, but offered zero actual humanity or safety.
Right, the illusion of care.
We explored how AI has become the ultimate diagnostician of our physical biology, reading 400,000 anonymous internet diaries to find the truth about weight loss drugs that the rigid structure of traditional medicine entirely missed.
Social pharmacovigilance.
Exactly. And finally, we arrived at the literal intersection of wetware and mind uploading. We are building computer chips that require biological waste removal, while humans are paying for fatal brain preservation to live on servers.
It's a lot to process.
It's an incredible amount to process. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over on your own. If our silicon machines are becoming biological, literally requiring feeding, care, and waste removal to run algorithms, and our biological brains are being mapped to be preserved forever as code in silicon, at what point do the words human and machine simply stop meaning anything at all? Subscribe to AI Unraveled on Apple Podcasts to enjoy this human interest briefing completely ads-free.
That concludes our human interest rundown for April 13th. The signal for today is friction. We are forcing a violent collision between cold algorithms and fragile human biology. When a young man is so terrified of the future that he throws a firebomb at a CEO's house, and another man is so lonely that he takes his own life over a chatbot, we have to admit that the software is breaking the human spirit. And as startups begin building actual microchips out of living human brain cells, the line between the flesh and the machine is vanishing completely. We have to demand psychological safety and ethical guardrails before we lose our humanity entirely. If you are going to use AI, use it on your terms and keep your human autonomy intact. Stop listening to the hustle bros pushing useless prompt guides. Head over to djamgamine.com/toolkit for my AI executive toolkit. I've personally forensic vetted every platform on this list to make sure they meet our rigorous standards. No fluff, just a curated implementation stack with exclusive listener perks. This episode was made possible by Iria and Jamgamind. Keep your daily news human and completely ad-free by hitting subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I'm Etienne Newman. Stay human and keep unraveling the future. And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamine.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.